The Rose Hair Tarantula just got international protection. Its habitat is still being bulldozed. New trade restrictions will apply. They'll track every spider that crosses a border. The millions of captive-bred rose hairs, born and raised in enclosures, they now need a permit to move between countries, for a problem they didn't cause. So we flew to Chile, found wild Grammostola rosea, saw what's actually threatening this species, and discovered that 200 years of scientific confusion was easier to solve than this. This is central Chile, Valparaíso to Maule, the only place on Earth where Grammostola rosea lives in the wild. For almost 200 years, scientists couldn't agree what this tarantula even was. Grey ones, copper ones, red ones. Some said same species, others said different. Pet stores mixed them, breeders argued, nobody knew.
I'm going to call this species we found here Grammostola porteri, even though the carapax has a really pinkish tone. But I know that in the southern part of Santiago there are more reddish specimens of Grammostola, and most likely the ones who are like purely reddish, violet, purple looking one are the roseas. So this species here is still quite impressive, but it's not that colorful as the ones in the south.
Chilean researchers finally figured it out. One species, natural color variation. Case closed. Then, 2026, CITES adds it to Appendix II, and suddenly the wrong problem gets all of the attention. Lives in Mediterranean scrubland. Hot dry summers, short wet winters. Sea level up to 2000 meters in the Andes. These are fossorial tarantulas. Females dig burrows up to 40 centimeters deep. No obvious silk entrance like some species. You're looking for a small hole, maybe 2 to 3 centimeters, partially hidden. I've kept rose hairs in captivity for years. Finding them in the wild? Different challenge. And there she is, a wild Grammostola rosea. Grey form. This is what most people picture when they hear Rose Hair Tarantula. Single patch of urticating hairs on the abdomen, type 3 and 4, 8 eyes, standard megalomorph arrangement, and that subtle copper tone on the carapace, the rose in rose hair. For decades this coloration got called porteri. Grey form versus red form, different species, they said. They were wrong. 2022, a revision confirmed it. Grammostola porteri is a junior synonym. Same species as rosea, always was. One mystery solved. But now let's talk about the one that isn't.
So yeah, we again have measured the temperature inside and outside of the burrow, and this time outside it's only 17 degrees and inside it's 20 degrees. So inside the hole it's actually 3 degrees warmer than outside. So outside we're around 17 degrees Celsius, and inside the burrow we have 20.3 degrees Celsius. We found her. Actually, this will be most likely a Grammostola porteri, and it's a big adult female actually. So just a few minutes searching in this area and we found a big hole right next to the street. So what you hear in the background, there is a lot of car traffic and therefore a lot of noise.
Chile still has a lot of forest. 15 million hectares, over 20% of the country. Sounds good, right? Here's what those numbers hide. Between 2001 and 2024, Chile lost 2.4 million hectares of tree cover. Maule, 440,000 hectares gone. And Maule is the southern edge of where this tarantula lives. It doesn't matter that Chile has forest somewhere else, and for a forest in Patagonia doesn't help a spider in Maule. If the habitat disappears where the species actually lives, the species disappears too. And what's causing this? Well, logging, agriculture, settlement and developments. Of course, that's demanding. And what is not on that list? Well, the pet trade. CITES regulates trade. It doesn't stop logging, it doesn't stop farms, it doesn't stop housing developments. A captive-bred rose hair in Germany isn't causing deforestation in Maule. But a new vineyard outside Talca, that actually is. Something's different here. Look at that color. This is what hobbyists call the red color form. Red doesn't do it justice. This is copper, almost orange, red, metallic shimmer across the entire carapace and body. If you compare them side by side, gray form, red form, for decades people argued these were different species. They are not. Same species, same Grammostola rosea. Natural variation. Science says they're the same, but that doesn't mean we should treat them the same. Here's what I believe. These color forms didn't appear randomly. They evolved in different parts of Chile. Different valleys, different microclimates, thousands of years, maybe millions. Nature sculpted these variations. Gray forms from one region, copper forms from another, each one carries the signature of its home range. Now that we know they can interbreed, some people will say we should. I strongly disagree. Just because science puts them in the same taxonomic box doesn't give us permission to millions of years of natural selection. In the hobby, we're now the custodians of these bloodlines. That's a responsibility.
This area, we are going to look for Grammostola rosea. This species of Grammostola should be quite reddish. So it's a quite outstanding species and a real hobby classic among Grammostola porteri. So these spiders got imported by huge numbers in the past, but now Chile has completely stopped the export of these animals. So what we try to do in this area is to find females and maybe males, because what we saw up in the Andes, that there were XX hatching. Maybe there's still some males wandering around, but during the day it's most likely impossible to find them, but maybe we are lucky and we find some. So we'll place it in front of the burrow and we'll see what happens. Maybe they will mate and we can document it here in the nature.
If you breed rose hairs, keep the lines separate. Gray to gray, red to red. Know where your animals come from. Respect the origins. Science solved the taxonomy. Doesn't mean we get to play God with the results. This is wild Grammostola mating behavior, something most people never see. He's careful, he has to be. If she decides he's food instead of a mate, it's over. He's hooked her fangs with his tibial spurs, holding her chelitzera, her fangs, open so she can't bite.
Right after the mating, we now extracted the female from the burrow, just to show it a little bit closer. Actually, this is an adult female of Grammostola rosea, and you can really see why they're called rosea. They have a shiny carapax with this purple pinkish glands, but there are also like a huge amount of red hair all over the body. So Grammostola rosea actually got described in 1837 by Vulcaner the first time at the genus Migal. So the first genus where all tarantula species got placed in was called Migal, because they simply did not know that there is such a huge diversity in tarantulas at that date. Grammostola rosea has quite a history in taxonomy, so this species got at least 8 or 9 times described independently from different authors. So there is a Grammostola cala, there is a Grammostola spatulata, which is primarily like all the same species. But because this species has such a huge distribution, these authors and researchers maybe thought that it is a different species.
In captivity, this can take seconds, maybe a few minutes, but out here in the nature, we watched it for almost 20 minutes. Natural pacing, no interference. And this is why fieldwork matters. You can't see this in an enclosure. What else did we learn? Well, lifespan. Females can live over 20 years. Males, usually 5 to 6. But here's something wild. 2022, a study documented a captive male that lived 8.5 years. 3 of those as a sexually mature male. That's unheard of. Most male tarantulas die within a year or two of maturing. This one tripled that. How? He barely ate, fasted for up to 2 years at a time, 22 months of no food. And now that we've seen their habitat, it makes sense. Mediterranean climate, long dry seasons. Food is unpredictable. These spiders evolved to survive extended fasting. So if your rose hair isn't eating, don't panic. She's doing what her species has done for millions of years. We came to Chile with the question, which rose hair is the real one? The answer is all of them. One species, 200 years of confusion finally resolved. We found wild mating behavior, undisturbed habitat, tarantulas doing what they've done for millennia. And we found a species caught between two problems. In the hobby, rose hairs are everywhere. Captive bloodlines going back decades, breeders who never imported the wild-caught animals in their lives. And now, CITES Appendix II, permits, paperwork, proof of origin for spiders born in enclosures that have never seen Chile.
The hatched eggs. So actually, most likely a few weeks ago, most of the spiderlings emerged and they just throw the egg sac out of the burrow. So we'll continue our search. Maybe we find some other species here and we'll let you guys know.
Maybe that slows wild-caught exports, which is now illegal to do anyways. A few years back, around 2005, Chile has exported thousands, 10,000s of Grammostola and other tarantula species legally. Trade restrictions are easy. Sign a document, add a species to a list, done. But habitat protection is hard. It means confronting agriculture, development, economics, telling people they can't build where they want to build. Yeah, it's really difficult. The Rose Hair Tarantula, the world's most common pet tarantula, finally understood by science, finally protected by law. Now let's see if anyone protects what actually matters. More wild tarantula expeditions coming soon, so if you subscribe, you're probably going to see them next.